Hi, it's Dr. Betsy Greenleaf, and we're back with another episode of Body, Mind, Spirit. Our special guest today is me. So, not often do you get to hear me just ramble on about things that I know. So, today you're going to get it from me. So, starting off, I want to ask everybody who here has a sister, an aunt, a female coworker? Who here has a mother? Then you know somebody who suffered in silence, because 80% of women will have a pelvic health condition at some point in their lives. Yet, because we're uncomfortable as a whole saying the words that refer to our lady parts, women cannot ask for help and cannot get help, and their practitioners can't give them help. When studies have shown that 65% of women are uncomfortable saying the word vagina. So hopefully I'm actually even afraid of saying it here because I'm afraid of getting canceled because people are so insulted by that word. And I don't understand it, because we can say elbow, we can say nose, we can say toes, we can say, ankles. It's just another body part. But unfortunately, because that body part is used in the reproduction process, there's a lot of taboo and shame around it. But I'm here to say we need to normalize the conversation, because it's women suffering with pelvic health conditions is not just a woman's problem. What ends up happening, this isn't every person's problem, because when women are not feeling well, everyone around them is affected. Let's just look at moms. If they're cranky with their children, how does that affect a child growing up if their mom is getting snippy and cranky with them? How does that affect relationships between lovers, between friends? How does that affect work performance? I mean, there are studies that show that women that suffer from pelvic health problems suffer at work. And we know that we need more people in the workforce. So I really want to just challenge everybody to start talking about pelvic health. And even though I'm specifically talking about women's pelvic health, the same thing goes for men's pelvic health. We need to be talking about the parts down below, because it's true. Things happen. It's just medical health conditions, and it's nothing to be ashamed about. I can't tell you how many times sitting in my office, I would have a woman come in and go, man, have you ever heard of this problem before? Like, I'm the only person that this must have ever happened to. And the truth was, that's all I did all day long, was talk about people's parts. So they weren't alone, but we all think that we are because we don't talk about it. Another thing that doesn't get talked about that much is menopause. And so I'm so excited because we have a summit coming up in June called the Happy Vagina Rally. And yes, I use the V word in the title, and you can find it at happyvaginarally.com. And I use the V word in the title just to really kind of catch people's attention, for them to be like, wait, but my goal at some point is to get to the point where we're not shocked by that word. But what we're going to be talking about in that summit is all things menopause, perimenopause, and health, pelvic health too. So you want to check that out. That's coming out June 9th through 12th, and that's free to watch, and you can go to that website. But not only are we talking about genital, reproductive, pelvic health, but like I said, menopause doesn't get talked about often. And I always laugh at the word menopause because there's nothing being paused. I guess the translation of the word pause is more of something's getting stopped or put on hold, or like it's coming to like an end. And especially in the United States, there's kind of this stigma around menopause. You think of like some little old lady having hot flashes. Well, late 40s, 50s are not little old ladies anymore, so people are just looking their best in their 50s. I mean, look at some of the famous women that have hit their 50s, like Kelly Ripa, J-Lo, Taji. there's a list, goes on. So, we're just becoming very vital around this time. And though, yes, it is an ending of our reproductive years, it is an opening to a whole new life. In fact, actually, if we look at the lifespan of women, which are living now into their 80s and 90s, very small amount of spent in childhood, very small amount is spent in our teenage years, very small amount is spent in our reproductive years. The majority of our time is going to be spent in menopause. And I love the Chinese term for menopause. Now, I can't actually pronounce the name of it, but it translates into second spring. And I like to look at menopause more like this second spring. It's a second act, it's a new beginning. And I think that we need to also open up and talk about this stage of life, because this also affects so many women and also those around them. But going back to pelvic health, what I want to talk about, and I go into depth in the summit on this conversation, is how our diet affects pelvic health. And people are going, what? How does diet affect pelvic health? Well, in fact, the strange thing to find out is that there is a brain-gut pelvic connection. And so how that actually works is, some people may have heard of the gut-brain connection. And this looks at the fact that we have a microbiome, micro meaning small, biome meaning like environment. And so we have these small environments on our body, starting from our mouth and our skin and our gut, and down below, the microenvironments in each place is different. And so the microenvironments are made up of a bacterial balance that keeps us healthy. I was one of those moms that ran behind my kids all the time with the hand sanitizer. And I look back now, because at the time I was like, ooh, germs, bacteria, we got to be scared of this stuff. When in fact, we evolved as humans to work in conjunction with bacteria in our environment and on our bodies and within our bodies. In fact, without bacteria, we could not digest our food. We need bacteria to actually make vitamins for our body to use. We need bacteria to help with our immune system. 80% of our immune system is, interestingly enough, made inside of our gut in the presence of healthy bacteria. And more importantly, when we talk about, there is this epidemic of mental health going on in our country, with many, many factors, but one of those factors is that 95% of our serotonin, our happy hormone, is made inside of our gut. And if our gut's not healthy because we're eating the standard American diet, which abbreviates to SAD, then our gut's going to become inflamed, and we're not going to make serotonin, and we're more likely to be depressed, anxious, or have pain. So, and what is the standard American diet? We think about inflammatory foods. These are your fast foods, your highly processed foods, your snack foods. And then the biggest inflammatory producing foods are sugar, gluten, which is wheat containing foods, dairy, and like I said, the processed foods. These all can affect our gut, throwing the balance of bacteria in our gut off, and therefore we're more susceptible to inflammation in our intestines, and therefore lowering our serotonin production, lowering our immunity, and then leading to a condition called leaky gut syndrome. Leaky gut syndrome is where these toxins from inflammatory foods, maybe even medications, things on our food sources such as insecticides, pesticides, get into our intestines, causes inflammation. Normally our intestinal wall, the cells are very close together, and they basically create a protective barrier and prevent other things from getting into our body, unless it's food that we're trying to absorb and that's broken down. But now these cells become inflamed because of all these toxins that are getting into our digestive system, and these cells will separate. And once they separate, now what can happen is those toxins that are in our food or in our medications or the types of food we're eating now get into our blood, can get into our body, into our blood system, and they create inflammation. And so everybody's inflammation shows up differently. Some people, it may show up as arthritis. Some people, it may show up as worsening of heart disease or diabetes. And some people, it may show up as an autoimmune disease. And in what I see in my clinic is I see worsening of pelvic health conditions. But I could probably sit here today and connect almost probably now 90% of medical conditions are either caused by an imbalance in the gut or made worse by an imbalance in the gut. So we really need to take a look at our food and what we're putting in our body and listening to our body, what it has to say. So we'll get back and talk more about what the body is doing after we take this commercial break. 80% of women will suffer in silence, not knowing where to turn for answers. Confused about where to find reliable women's health information? Searching for the answers. But we got you covered. Get the answers that you deserve to start living your best life at this free virtual summit with over 30 experts talking about health, hormones, intimacy, and more. Sign up today for the Happy Vagina Rally. All right, back talking about body inflammation, pelvic health. Now, there's something else I wanted to bring up that's really important that is not just about our diet. The title of this podcast is Body, Mind, Spirit, because that's the secret to total wellness. You think of our health like a three-legged stool, each stool, body, mind, and spirit. If all three legs of that stool are not equal, the stool will just fall over. And that's how our health is. We talk all the time about, let's do this for the body. That's what your healthcare practitioners are able to do. They can give you the tools to take care of your body. Exercise, sleep well, eat better, take this pill, but they can't do for you the mind spirit aspect of that. And in fact, actually the body part, they can only make suggestions. So you look at your healthcare practitioners as a tool to get, not like tool, like there's such a tool, but as a tool to use to get to the place of being healthy. But honestly, you got the ruby slippers. It's all up to you. The power for you to heal is in your body and has been there all along. So you need to be able to take the information that's given to you and translate that into a healthy body. But how do we affect the mind and the spirit? And that gets a little more difficult. And the question is, why is that even important? Well, it goes back to how we developed as humans with these nervous systems that kept us alive. We had the sympathetic nervous system, that's your fight, flight, or fright. And we had the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest, digest, and reproduction. So to heal, to digest your food, and to reproduce, and that includes sex drive, fertility, pelvic health, all those processes need to be done in a relaxed state, which as cave people, the only reason we made more cave people and we're sitting here today is because at some point somebody was in a relaxed state and they were able to reproduce and make more people. But what happens is when all your energy is put into those processes, we're doing great, we're in balance, everything's wonderful. And then what ends up happening is, say we're walking across the savannah and out jumps a lion. Well, our sympathetic nervous system will kick in at that point in time. And what ends up happening is before we can even think about it, we're either running away from that lion, fighting that lion, or staying so incredibly still that lion doesn't see us. And so that system kicks in for survival, and we need that system. That's the same system when you put your hand on a hot plate or oven and your arm is next thing you know, your arm is just jerking away without you knowing it. That's your sympathetic nervous system making decisions for you to keep you safe without you thinking about it. Because we don't want to sit there, and when a lion is chasing us or jumping out of the bushes, we don't want to sit there and take the time to think, oh, well, that's a lion. What should I do about that? Well, that's a cute little kitty. Oh, no, wait, that's a threat. I need to go. I need to run. I need to get away really fast. So our sympathetic nervous system is needed for survival, but it was only meant to be activated for very short bursts, because we weren't supposed to be constantly 24/7 running away from a lion. We were supposed to get away from a lion, get safe, and then go back to relaxation. But in today's modern times, our lions show up in different ways. They show up as work stress, relation stress, financial stress, school stress, stress of chronic disease, and our levels stay high for long periods of time. And when we're in that fight, flight, or fright, that stressed out state, it sucks all the energy away from healing, digestion, and reproduction. So once again, this also will affect our gut and will make us more prone to inflammatory conditions. So this is very interconnected. So, and then when we talk about the brain gut being connected, so if our brain is stressed, it produces those stress hormones, and then that affects our digestion, which causes inflammation in our gut. And then the gut becomes inflamed, then our body becomes inflamed. And then we lose those healthy hormones. We're more prone to depression and anxiety and pain, and that affects our brain more. And so this becomes a very circular pattern. Where the pelvic health gets wrapped into this is also having to do with the microbiome. So we're saying, like, if the gut is off, the microbiome of the gut is off for women, the microbiome of the reproductive organs will be off. Because as women, anatomically, and using anatomic terms here, the anus, where the stool comes out, the vagina, and the urethra, the tube you pee through, are very, very close together. And it's very easy for bacteria to get passed back and forth. This is why in women who get recurrent vaginal infections or urinary tract infections, one of the main sources can be bacterial imbalance in the gut. And so it doesn't matter how clean you are, these things can pass back and forth. So what they have found is that when the bacteria in the vagina is off, our bodies are very smart and they do things without us knowing. There is a feedback loop to the brain to say, ooh, something's not right. We're under stress. We need to dampen all the hormones of reproduction, because now is not the ideal time to reproduce. Because remember, when you're running away from a lion, it's not the time to be trying to make a baby. So our body recognizes that there's a stressor there, and it goes, okay, I'm going to shut off all the hormones of reproduction. And so this can affect women when it comes to fertility. So one of the things that we need to know, there are many factors that go into fertility, but one of the ones that often gets overlooked is looking at the vaginal microbiome. And this is actually something that can be tested by healthcare practitioners. The other thing is, I've seen this many times over the years, especially women who go through menopause, they believe that their sex drive is related to hormones. And in some ways that is true, but it's just one of the many factors. So once again, if the vagina becomes imbalanced, because what happens, all right, so let's take a step backwards. So in menopause, you get thinning of the vaginal tissue. And that's from lack of estrogen. Estrogen is one of the hormones that's used for the menstrual cycle, but it also helps to keep the vaginal mucosa thick and healthy. And when that tissue is thick and healthy, it's actively growing new cells, and the old cells will slough off and die. And what happens is there's bacteria that live in the reproductive tract of women called lactobacillus. the lactobacillus will live off of a chemical called glycogen that's found in those sloughed off dead cells. And in return, the lactobacillus protects us by producing hydrogen peroxide and lowering the acid level of the vaginal tract. This helps fight off or keep away bad bacteria, yeast, and this is the balance that we need of bacteria in the body for the body to be healthy and not stressed and not inflamed. So when women go through menopause, they lose their estrogen levels go down. And in response, the vaginal tissue becomes very, very thin. It can become dry. Sometimes intimacy can be painful, but it's that thinning of that tissue that basically starves the lactobacillus to death. And without the lactobacillus protecting a woman, now she's more prone to pelvic health conditions and pelvic infections. But also, once again, many women will blame their libido, the sex drive, on hormones and think that hormones are the only answer, when in truth, sometimes you give somebody hormones and it's still a problem because the microbiome balance is off, because the body, once again, is sensing, they think it's through the vagus nerve. That's something that scientists are working on right now. That's sensing that, oh, things aren't right and it's not time to make a baby. And so the brain doesn't know the difference between somebody trying to actually have a baby or just trying to have fun. And so once again, the body will dampen all the processes of reproduction, including sex drive. So that is something that needs to be looked at also. So it's amazing to me how connected the body is. And that we can actually make so many differences ourselves without going to the doctors necessarily, without having fancy tests. You can make big differences by choosing healthy foods. And what are healthy foods? Those are things that would grow, walk, fly, or swim. And I always joke that Twinkies don't grow on trees. So you need to make sure that you're eating things that are healthy, whole foods. You know, back when we were cave people, we didn't have refrigeration. We weren't like walking across the savannah to our refrigerator to get a snack. So the refrigeration has made our food industry amazing and has kept us safe from food poisoning and things like that. We evolved to eat more bacteria. That's how we replenish the bacteria in our bodies. And so one of the ways you can replenish bacteria in your bodies is eat more fermented foods. And what are fermented foods? Well, there's tons of them on the market now. So much more easier to find, but these are foods that have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years that humans have lived on, and cultures have been incorporated in different cultures. And we have things like kimchi, which is a spicy fermented cabbage. You have sauerkraut, yogurt, kefir. Those are two milk-based products, and I'll go back to that in a minute. We have also kombucha, which is a fermented tea. And so this all helps replenish the healthy bacteria in our gut, adding to total body wellness. I mean, I know I'm talking a lot about pelvic health here, but really doing these things are going to help with no matter what medical condition you have. Now, when I talk about dairy, everyone catches me on this. They're like, oh, I thought you said dairy was inflammatory. For the most part, it can be, because as we age, we become more lactose intolerant. Lactose is the sugar that's in milk products. But when you have a fermented product like a yogurt or a kefir, what's happening is that bacteria that is used to make these products will break down that milk sugar. So unless you have a really difficult problem with dairy, I kind of give the yogurts a pass as long as you tolerate them. So same thing with, I talk about not eating wheat products and gluten products, but if you have to eat something, choose a sourdough, because sourdough is used by breaking down the sugars, the bacteria. It's used with bacteria and yeast that break down the sugars in those wheats. So it's not as harsh on the body. Even sprouted products, like where they actually sprout the wheat, that's a better choice than say like a white bread. So, choosing healthy foods is something that we can do, lowering stress. And I know everyone's like, well, how do you lower stress? Well, there's so many different ways. Number one, we're not supposed to be having lights and tablets and computers and things that affecting our circadian rhythm, our sleep cycles. So unfortunately, sleep does put a lot of stress in the body. In fact, actually, they have studies that show in particular, people getting 5 to 6 hours or less asleep at night are 30% more prone to obesity. And we know that those in turn can lead to other medical problems. We were supposed to go to bed when the sun went down and wake up when the sun went up. So I always tell people to try to improve your sleep by just backing off by 15 minutes a day until you get to that 8-hour mark. We need also to drink more water. 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated, and that puts a stressor on the body. So doing these little things for the body, and then looking into supporting your brain, doing things like meditation, have a hobby, doing things with friends. Doing things with friends also create a sense of community, which helps spirit. Go for a walk, read a book, do things that can lower the stress. So taking all these aspects can not only lead to a healthier body, but also a healthier pelvis and a healthy life. So this is Dr. Betsy Greenleaf with the last episode for this season of Body, Mind, Spirit. Make sure you tune in. We'll be coming back in the fall with another season. In the meantime, follow me on social media. I'm either Dr. Betsy Greenleaf _ on Instagram, or if you just look up Dr. Betsy Greenleaf, you can find me on other formats. And don't forget, come join us for our free Women's Health Summit coming out June 9th through 12th. And it's all online. I have 30 amazing speakers coming to you, and you'll find that at happyvaginarally.com. Thank you once again, and looking forward to seeing you soon. "80% of women will suffer in silence, not knowing where to turn for answers. Confused about where to find reliable women's health information? Searching for the answers. But we got you covered. Get the answers that you deserve to start living your best life at this free virtual summit with over 30 experts talking about health, hormones, intimacy, and more. Sign up today for the Happy Vagina Rally.